welcome to another Closer Look podcast. I'm Jason Smith, sitting with David Wojnicki. Hello, Dave.
Hey, Jason. Here we are.
Here we are.
The day after he is risen.
He is risen indeed. How was your Easter?
We had a really sweet Easter. Had family come over to our house after the last service and spent some time. I don't think people probably went home like around 5 o'clock and stuff.
Nice.
So we had a sweet time. What'd you guys do? Were you at your place or
We ended up staying home. We were going to go visit some relatives, but we got a couple kids still recovering from lingering illness.
I know.
So we watched a little Rangers baseball, had some great food.
Yeah. Rangers baseball, which by the way, they lost to the Chicago Cubs.
Well, after they beat them twice. So.
Just a little, we don't like getting into that here.
Cubs, Rangers, yeah, okay.
I will say that we had a really interesting Sunday in the fact weather-wise. That for Southern California, we had hail yesterday. Yes. It was cold.
Some great lightning,
thunder, snow up on the mountain.
Yeah.
I mean, it was cold.
It was not Southern California weather.
No, March 31st. It was crazy. I'm looking at my friends. They're posting their family pictures and stuff. Like they're in Kentucky and Chicago and Virginia, and they're like wearing, short sleeves.
Yes.
And we put on the fire last night, and we were heating up the house. So that was crazy.
It was quite different. And then there was an
earthquake
not too far from it. It was like, all right, bring it all in one day.
On Easter. But what I have to say, just what a blessing to be able to be together in the three services yesterday, and that we were able to be in the worship center on a Sunday like that, after a few years in the tent. And, I know it's our second, Resurrection Sunday that was there. But
and something I noted from this week and last week, just proud and love our people, proud of our people, is even with the rain,
they came.
They still come.
They really did. That was a sweet thing to see. And before we kind of get into the service itself, I know we have some questions about the message and things. And one of the things that I wanted to ask you, because I don't think a lot of people know all that necessarily goes into like a worship service. Something that was interesting for me yesterday. Is that if you went to the worship service, like it was Easter Sunday, we're celebrating the resurrection. Right. But overall, like the elements and the things like, we're very careful to not put on a show, but to do things with excellence and to bring praise and glory to God. But that doesn't mean that there's not a lot of effort that goes in. I would be real curious for you to like walk people through as we're preparing for like an Easter Sunday, 3 services. What all goes into that? When did that planning start for you? I know it's pretty consistent with any other Sunday, but what did that look like for you this last week?
No, we do keep the same liturgy, whether it's Christmas, Easter. Thanks for asking that. Dave, even with, I'm going to say, with every single week for me, there is a weight that I feel in planning worship. And that's because my job is still pastoral. I'm still teaching. I'm still ministering to the hearts of the people who are in our church. And so we don't just any week ever go, oh, here, let me pick the song out of a hat and just put it all together. There's intentionality, thinking through scripture, thinking through what you're going to be preaching, or even what a lot of people don't know. A lot of times I actually tie the worship set into what you just preached last week and continue it on. And that's okay. They don't notice that, but that helps me a whole lot. But we in the worship team. So there's a lot of weight that goes in there. And so as I'm thinking through songs, it's okay, what songs can minister to the hearts of our people? We also try to think through, or I do people know these songs? There are a lot of new songs that we do and can do, but we want to make sure there's a good mixture of songs that people know. And I love hymns. But one reason that we also keep including hymns, because oftentimes you find, even if people don't know the songs we sing, they know hymns.
Sure.
And they will sing. And you know what? If you listen to it, the church always sings so loud on hymns and other songs too. But man, when we get to a hymn, there's a loud volume to it.
And that picking songs that have some familiarity, predominantly we're cognizant of that on like a Christmas Eve or on an Easter when we know that we'll have a lot more visitors there, and we're not just capitulating there, but it's like we know that as people bring in friends and family, there are songs that we sing that are more familiar to us during a given season. But
we want them to participate as well,
exactly, and to feel that.
So and then what was different this week for us as a worship team? We actually met on Tuesday night to rehearse. We normally get there about 7:30 on Sundays to rehearse for the 9 o'clock service. But since we started 8 this week, we got together on Tuesday and we rehearsed actually Tuesday evening. and then we only got there about 7:20. But I'm grateful for our worship team. I was texting them yesterday. God has really blessed this church with a great team who has not only great musicianship but great hearts.
Yeah, absolutely.
And desire for God to be glorified. And so
something that people don't see behind the scenes is when you're done with the worship and leading us in song, and then the team is coming off, and I'm usually going up. I get to see their eyes, I get to see their hearts, and they'll say, "Hey, praying for you as I'm going up." And this is from the singers to the musicians and everything like that. And I really appreciate just the heart that they're not up there just performing, and I can tell that, and I'm thanking them for what they're doing. And they say, "Yeah, we're so grateful for the opportunity to serve." But there's a sacrifice that goes with it.
Yep.
I mean, like worshiping early or practicing on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And then coming early, like on a given Sunday, first service is at 9. You guys are there at 7:30, and they're not rolling out of there, sometimes till after the worship is done. At
you see sometimes why the worship team leaves quickly after that second service. They're tired.
Yeah, they've been there 5 hours.
Yes.
Yep. Doing that. So we love them. Appreciate you and all that you do with that. And thanks for giving us a little insight into what goes on and something like that.
Absolutely. So for you, because I know there's a weightiness to planning what you're going to preach and what you're going to do, and so as you prepared yesterday, probably a couple questions. Anything that one stood out to you?
Sure.
And tag on that, was there something that you felt like you had to cut because you didn't have time, or whatever reason it didn't make the sermon for us to hear?
Yeah, it's really interesting when you do a service on an Easter Sunday. I think that we're looking at it. I don't even know that you know this yet. I think there was 760 people in the services, and there were another 150 to 200 kids.
Okay.
So God blessed us. I mean, we had well over 900, almost 1,000 people on campus yesterday, and so that's not a typical Sunday. A typical Sunday, we have about 500, so it was almost double the amount of people that were there. And so I'm aware of that. I'm aware of people coming, and yet what I found is my calling first. We've talked about this in the podcast. Is to our people first and foremost.
Yes.
And that when we're coming to worship, in fact, my oldest daughter was talking about that with a friend in college recently. Just, the Sunday morning is for the believer.
It's for the believers.
And then we desire the gospel go out for the unbeliever. And so we want that to be a part of the service. So I'm thinking about that when I'm preparing it. I knew it was going to be a standalone message. This year I just felt led to be like, let's just look at the resurrection account. I think this is the 9th time I've preached an Easter message, 9th or 10th time, and I'd actually never just done what I did on Sunday, where we just looked at one of the accounts, where we just kind of went through it like I did. I've interspersed it, but it's been a little bit more topical. So I wanted to do that, and so that was kind of what was in my mind. Just where my heart was at, right? If I'm going to prepare it, and so I felt then two things. One, the message wanted to be a little apologetic, right? And so I said it was a 2-point message in one sense, but with a lot of subpoints because I'm a pastor. What's the reality of the resurrection and the ramifications, right?
Yes.
And so the first thing that stood out to me is and I tried to capture it in the sermon so people can tell me if I did it or not, like how accurately and how intentionally John recorded what he did. If you really understand the historical context, John goes out of his way to include details that would have, for the first readers of his gospel, helped them understand that he is grounding the resurrection in reality. Everything from the detail of Mary Magdalene going to the tomb, to talking about himself beating Peter to the tomb first, to then not going in the tomb. He didn't edit out the things that he could have edited out in order to make himself look good, make the story more presentable to a certain audience. He just said the things that he felt needed to be said because they happened. And so that just really struck me. I just walked away for myself and my studies, just smiling. And I told Hannah, my wife, a couple of times during the week, and it just, it hits her differently or others because they're not in it as much. It's just like, I just have so much more confidence in the resurrection. There's so much you have to deny in order to not believe it.
Before you even preached, actually, someone came up to me and talked about the Gospels. And there's a political TV host who recently said that the Gospels are unreliable, and they're asking how to answer that, and you answered a lot of that.
Yeah.
I know there's so much more to be said.
Yeah.
But you answered a lot of that without even knowing that question was being asked by that individual yesterday.
Because the Gospels are continually under attack.
Of course.
But the more you read the Gospel, see, from a 21st century mindset, when you read the Gospel, when you impose our thinking on things, we were sitting around the lunch table and we're talking about it afterwards, and I said, if you make certain assumptions and you believe your assumptions are accurate, then you're going to see that you're going to say, oh, there's not a harmony there. It's like, if you understand that each gospel is just telling things from the perspective and giving the information they want to. So my parents were literally standing around getting ready to have lunch, right? And my dad starts telling a story of something that happened the day before. Every Easter, we buy this lamb cake. It's a cake in the shape of a lamb. And so he's telling this story. And you know how many times, I love you, Mom, she was stopping and interrupting my dad to correct him because he was, quote unquote, leaving out certain parts of the story. Was his story inaccurate because he didn't say so? No, he just didn't feel like it was important to share that thing. But, I love it.
Because when you were saying this, I was thinking about me and my wife, Angie, we'll tell the same story, but it's two different stories.
Sure.
and most married people are like that.
We do.
You understand that.
So why do we subject the gospel accounts to an unfair evaluation when we do it in our own lives? And, you said, was there something that cut, that got cut? And so the podcast, A Closer Look, part of the thing that I said is there are things that I would not necessarily say from the pulpit, because when I don't have time to explain it, go into the detail, it might not be as beneficial, but things that we would share here. So I'm going to give you one today. Okay. So one of the big points about the reality of the resurrection was that John records that all the gospel records that women were the first ones to see it. And I made the point that if you're a historian and you're trying to get people to believe your account, that would be part of the story that you would edit out back then.
Yes.
Any historian will tell you that that's what they believed in patriarchal societies. And by the way, they still believe it today. I didn't have time to go into it. You go to Saudi Arabia, you go to Iran, you go to Afghanistan, places where Islamic rule is there, and they're highly patriarchal societies. Women are second class. Like, we still see it today.
Yeah.
Now check this out. We actually have evidence in the Bible of what I said, I believe, being true. You see, all the gospel accounts include women in their testimonies, right?
Okay.
When the Apostle Paul writes, I didn't tell Jason I was going to share this. So when the Apostle Paul writes to the church in Corinth in 1 Corinthians 15, and he talks about the resurrection, I want to read for you, listen to this, what he says, how he describes the resurrection. It was the passage I used yesterday about, like, if Christ isn't raised from the dead, then we're still in our sins and everything like this. And so he says, "For I delivered to you as of first importance what I also received, that Christ died for our sins in accordance with the Scriptures, that he was buried, and that he was raised on the third day in accordance with the Scriptures, and that he appeared to Cephas, then to the 12, then he appeared to more than 500 other brothers at one time, most of whom are still alive, though some have fallen asleep. Then he appeared to James, then to all the apostles." Who's missing from his list?
The women.
The women are missing from his list.
Yeah.
And so why did Paul do that? Did Paul know that the women were there? Absolutely. Does he not believe that's, a good thing? No, but I'm telling you, he's now writing to the Corinthians. He's writing to a Roman context. He knows that the Gospels exist. He knows that he can read them, but he leaves the women out. Now, is he being a male chauvinist and all those things? No, I can't say for 100% why, but that's kind of evidence of him saying, he's like, because he didn't have to do that. The Gospels already existed, but do you know it's like when he summarized it?
Yes. Yeah.
So those are those things. It's like, it kind of actually proves the point that I made, that, there are times where, Paul says, "I become all things to all people," and he will communicate at times the things that he felt were helpful.
Yep.
And then he would, not communicate things he didn't feel that were helpful.
Yes.
In that context, I think he was saying, it's like, I don't need to tell them about the women seeing it first, because that's not going to help this group. So,
that's pretty neat.
It's just, but nonetheless, like, that's something I'm not going to spend time in the message yesterday getting into and talking about. But in this, or even in other contexts, I'll share those things. So that's
cool.
kind of set up.
Cool. Great. Well, it was a great Easter service. And then this week we're back into Luke, yeah?
Yeah, we're going to be back in the Gospel of Luke and starting starting the ministry of Jesus.
Okay.
We're going to get to see Jesus begin doing his work of healing and teaching and preaching, and so that's going to carry us on, for quite some time. And we'll take some little breaks here and there. But now we're not just, we celebrated the resurrection.
Yes.
And now we're going to see the events that led up to his death, burial, and crucifixion as we go through the gospel.
That's pretty
so
cool. That's pretty cool.
It's good.
Wonderful. And one last thing.
Yep.
Today's April 1st, April Fool's. That means tomorrow you have a birthday.
It's my birthday tomorrow. Yes.
Happy birthday a day early.
Thank you. Yeah. I do have to say, one of my daughters, my youngest daughter, she knows that today's April 1st and April Fool's Day. And she got me this morning.
Did she?
Cece comes up to me and I'm sitting on the couch and I was working on something and she says, "Dad, there was $1 under my pillow this morning." And I'm like, she didn't lose a tooth? Like we did the Easter, they got eggs this morning. Yeah. And I'm like, what? How did you? She's like, April Fool's.
Yeah,
I was like,
that's so great.
I'm like, fun time.
I'm watching my kids. They've already been trying. So my antennas are up. Wait, they'll probably get me at some point today. So, well, always great chatting with you. We love you, church family. God willing, we'll see you Sunday. Have a great week.
See ya.